2 of our Hangman project. Depending on where your class ended up, your code may or may not look like this. We should get to where your code looks as we go through it. I started a little bit backwards, but first we're going to do a little bit of cleanup, and you can do this along with me if you want. I don't like this blank line at line 2, and I do want to change this comment at the top. In class, I told you that we should write, this is a game of Hangman. This comment is just to help people who come in and see this code and understand what it's going to do. Okay, this print high was left over from the template we started with, and we don't need that right now. So we're going to go ahead and delete that. I selected all the lines, and I'm just going to hit delete. Now, if you notice, and it's probably hard to see on the video, maybe easier to see on your system, there's a slight gray underline here under this function, and that's telling me there's a warning. I can also look up here and see that there's 2 weak warnings. Python really, from a manner standpoint, it's not going to affect how the program runs. It likes 2 blank lines before that function, so we're going to delete one of those. The gray line went away, and I dropped down to, oh, it says I still have 2 warnings, so we'll have to check that out later. We're going to go through this and see. I also just want 1 line at the end of the file, and we should be good to go here. So now, what we did in class that you may or may not have is we decided after we did this letter, we added an if statement to check to see if that letter is in the secret word. I'm going to start by adding in some comments here to kind of give us a framework for what we're going to do. So we're going to print out the secret word. Now we're not going to print out the secret word completely because that would give away the game. This letter we have asks the player for the secret word, for a letter. Ask the player to guess a letter. Now, the next thing we'll do is we'll check if the letter is in the secret word. Okay, so let's try that out. If, well, the letter that we got from the player is in letter, if the letter in the secret word. So it's just like English, but it's Python. If the letter's in the secret word, well, let's just tell them that. Print the letter is in the secret word. And otherwise, so else, we're going to print out the letter is not in the secret word. Now, I know I'm going way too fast. Remember, you can always pause the video, see what's written on the screen, type it in, and continue on. The letter is not in the secret word. Let's try running this and see what happens. So we're going to go ahead and run. Now remember, our secret word is claptrap. So let's enter a letter. We'll try a C. That letter C is in the secret word. Yes, it is. Let's try the letter X. Okay, the letter is not in the secret word. Well, an A should be in the secret word. Yes, the A is in the secret word. Okay, so you could try this out on your own. Make sure your code is running. We do not currently have a way to end the game, so we're just going to force it to close down with the red stop button. You can close the run panel and get more room for coding by clicking that little underscore button there. Now, for many of you, this is where we left off. Let's talk a little bit about where we're going from this point. In the game of Hangman, what happens is the player guesses a letter, and the host says whether it's in the word. But the host also needs to print out what letters are in the word. Now, typically, if we're doing this on paper, we'll start off with a set of lines, and we'll fill those in with letters as we go. So what we'll want to do is when we start, we'll want to put out 8 underscores that represent the word, and then if they were to guess an A, we would change the underscores to A's. So today's code, we're going to work on this functionality itself. Now the first thing we need to do that is we need to keep track of a list of letters that have been guessed. For today, we're only going to keep track of the list of letters that are correct. So let's start back up at the top and set up our list. We're going to call our list letters guessed. And in order to create a list, we use the square brackets. The square brackets tell Python, hey, this is a list. Now they're empty because our list, when the game starts, is empty. No letters have been guessed. So once we have that, then we'll go down here, and after they guess a letter, let's go ahead and add it to the list. Let me talk about what I'm doing here just so you can take advantage of these same shortcuts. As I start typing, you'll see suggestions come up. Now, I don't want letters here. I want letters guessed. So I can use my arrow keys and go down, and I can hit either tab or enter to get it, to pick that out. And that's great. Now, I want to take and add the letter to the list of letters. In Python, we add to a list by using the append. And so we can append a letter. Remember, letter is what they guessed. We'll put that in the list. And that's great, but we still haven't printed out the secret word. So we have a comment here that says print out the secret word. So let's go ahead and print the word. Now we know that when something is underlined in red, that means there's an error. We can just move our mouse over it. Remember, don't click, just move the mouse over it. Then we can pick create function print word. Okay, now we got our function created up here on line 10. I haven't clicked anything yet, and that's intentional. When we get code added for us, you can see that the pass is highlighted. It's in a box. That's Python saying, well, this will work if I give it to you, but I expect that you want to replace this. And I, in fact, do. So I don't want to print out the secret word itself because that would give away the answer. So I'm going to print out a temporary word. And what's going to happen is I'm going to start with the temporary word being equal, being an empty word. And I'm going to look at every letter in the secret word. So I'm going to do a for loop, and inside that for loop, secret letter is going to become, each time through the loop, another letter in the secret word. So if with our word claptrap, the first time through the loop it will be C, and then the second time it will be L. So that's going to help me, because right now I could say temporary word plus equals the secret letter. And then let's go ahead and see what that prints out if we run this. We're going to print out the temporary word. Notice that I back this up because we don't want the print statement inside the for loop. We want it at the end. Let's see what happens when we run this. Okay, you see it printed out the secret word. Now that's exactly what I didn't want to do because it becomes pretty easy to guess letters from the secret word if I'm printing it out. What I want to do is only print out the letters they've already guessed. Since they haven't guessed any letters to begin with, I just want to print out underscores. The other thing I want to do is I'm going to put a space between each letter, because with the underscores it's easier to see how many letters there are if I put a space between them. Okay, so the secret here is I got to say, okay, is this letter, have they guessed it yet? Have they guessed this letter? Well, if we're going to ask a question, we need an if. If the secret letter is in the letters guessed. Okay, well that seems easy enough. If it is, well, then I'll want to do that, just like we did before. I want to add the secret letter to the temporary word. But if it's not, did you see that? Did you see how when I put the colon on the else, it tabbed it back to where it was supposed to go? That's pretty cool. That keeps you from having to do those tabs by hand if you just let it go. Again, as I start typing temporary word, it comes up and suggests it. I just hit tab to accept it. So since the secret letter's not been guessed, I don't want to print out the secret letter. Instead, I'm just going to print the underscore in the space. Let's try this again and see how it goes. So we see it starts off well. There's one underscore for each letter in the secret word. There's 8 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, separated by spaces. And then as I guess letters, we see that it's getting filled in. Now, there's 2 A's in here, so let's try the A and make sure both A's get filled in, and they do. And the reason that's happening is we're looping across the word, and we say, have you guessed a C? Yes, we'll put a C there. Have you guessed an L? No. Okay, we'll leave it as blank. Have you guessed an A? Yes, put an A there. Have you guessed a P? No, put it as a blank. And we just keep going through that all the way through the word, building up the temporary word letter by letter. Let's go ahead and try and put the P in, and you can see that fills in. That is, for us, the end of day 2. Pretty simple for us to do this. Now we've got a program that not only tells us whether the letter's in the word or not, but it also prints out how much of the word we've guessed. On tomorrow, we're going to worry about winning or losing the game.